Chase Walker, we're so excited that you're here with us. You are our illustrator for our upcoming book, It's Possible, about Space Medal of Honor recipient Ronald McNair. I'm so excited that you get to speak to what you do, to your
Hmm.
creativeness, but also to our students who are participating in this design challenge. You know, it's our America 250 Design Challenge. We're highlighting Medal of Honor and Space Medal of Honor recipients. They get to select one and then go through all the different performance tasks that are involved in this challenge to hopefully win some money. And so we're excited that you're here to talk a little bit about your background and what you do, how you do it, because there are going to be students out here that are participating in this that are exceptionally creative and already illustrate things. So I'm so happy that we're able to connect them to someone who's taken this as a career path. And maybe there are some other students who haven't even thought of it as a career path, even though they are actually really good artists. So Chase, tell us a little bit about your background, what you're willing to share.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to interview me. My background is really interesting. I was born in Liberia, West Africa, and around um, maybe 9, 8, or something like that, we had a civil war. So it was crazy. A lot of chaos and, a lot of bad things was happening in the country. Um, but for me, I think what got me through it was making art. We were, while the war was going on, we were somehow situated somewhere, somehow peaceful compared to the rest of the people in the country. So we were right next to the peacekeepers at the peacekeeper base. And the way I got through the day was just drawing. So I would, take my pencil and paper and, draw my way through everything. Um, And if there was in paper, I would draw in the sand. And, that was like the best thing for me. And just like sit on a tree and just like draw all these stories about what I would love to do when there wasn't a war or when there wasn't people running from danger. And that sort of stuck with me throughout my teenage years. I spent 6 years on a refugee camp in Ghana. And it was the same thing for me, right? It was just drawing and it was we'll go to school, come back, but for me it was always telling stories, and the way I did that was through the pictures that I created. So I would pretty much use whatever I could find to use. So it would be magazines covers, it would be the pages of books that had like a little clean paper somewhere on it. It would just be, notebook sheets that I would take from school. And I think for me, that stuck with me, the power to tell stories through me creating it myself. And when we actually returned home to Liberia after the war, I got my first job because I was like a teenager now. I got my first job at a newspaper, and they needed someone to do the cartoons in the paper. And I was like, yeah, I can do that. So that's how I really started illustrating, um, not just on paper at my house now, but for people to actually see. So I would just like listen to things that was happening in the city, and I will illustrate things. And that led to me working with a lot of, nonprofits in the country. When nonprofits comes to Liberia and they're looking for an illustrator, they will find me because I was always in the newspaper doing something. Later on, I sort of like immigrated to the US about, I think, 13, 14 years back. And it stuck with me. I did the same thing. So I started working with illustrators, not illustrators, but authors and, small nonprofits that were doing things internationally and nationally, like, well, what to expect on foundation, doing this massive project in Liberia about teenage pregnancy and literacy in terms of, things surrounding, newborns. And that was cool because I came from a country where we had a lot of population that wasn't, because of the war, had become um, a population that wasn't really reading, right? So a lot of people was out of school. So over time, that led to, a huge population of being non-literate. So we had to spend a lot of time creating materials that people would see the visual aspect of it, the
Yeah.
illustrations, and actually follow those things instead of, reading it. So, um, yeah, that's how I started. It's a long story, but I'm trying to
I
make it shorter.
no, tell it
But
away.
yeah, and then currently I work as a designer at a nonprofit, but have I do that half of the time, and half of the time I work with indie authors, and like this project, for example, illustrating this beautiful book. But I that's what I spend my time doing with my two daughters who are awesome, and they try to like draw as well, and they're one is 4 and the other is 18 months. So I got my hands full with them, learning and drawing and seeing me create things that hopefully one of these days they can look at themselves.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I love it. Sounds you're very passionate about this. It's something that means something to you. It has spoken to you since
Hmm.
childhood. It's awesome that you're able to carry that on. It's literally students who will be competing in this design challenge, and they were the ones who will be drawing inspiration by reading these Medal of Honor and Space Medal of Honor recipient stories and drawing what they see from that story, from the words from the page, right? So,
Hmm.
can you tell us a little bit about how um, you know, you can get a pen to paper or pencil to paper, but what, what I don't want to say it's not the word inspires. Like, what are some of the steps that you go through, if there are any steps that you go through, of how to visualize what the story should look like, what these
Hmm.
characters should look like, who these people should look like? Why am I adding certain features in? Can you talk a
Yeah.
little bit about that process? Because there will be some students who have never drawn anything in their life, probably. I'm the worst.
Hmm.
My
Hmm.
students used to make fun of my stick figures on the board. I get it. It's not my jam. But, there's some students who maybe have that budding potential. There are some students who are already blooming. What are some tips that you could give to our students that are going to be, putting that pencil to paper here soon and drawing some of these illustrations, illustrating their recipient?
Yeah, so I think before doing anything creative, ask yourself the three W's is it's like why, who, and what, the story's about. And I think beginning to understand what the story is about and then why you're doing it and then, what you're doing. And I think you begin to then understand who are the characters in the story. And then you understand where the story, occurs. And that helps you to create the mood. And then what the story is about helps you create the emotions, right? So are they happy? Are they sad? Where are they? And I think all these things you begin to put together to have the sort of the mood, what makes someone want to read the story. And it doesn't matter if you're not the best artist in the world, but creating the mood is really important because you want someone to really dive in the story. So it's good to look at references. So if you have other stories that you really like, maybe go to the library, look at their works from people that you admire, look at how they're doing it. I mean, we all have mobile phones now, so we can, look at Pinterest and look at inspirations. But it's always important to stay true to your own style. You know, it doesn't matter how you compare yourself to another person, but you want to stick with how you create things and then pull all those, flavors of, things that you've learned, that you've researched online and try to like create the story. It's important to stick with the vision of the author, whoever created the story, understand why you're doing this. Because, for example, because for the one that I'm doing, Run Out McNair, it's a lot of for me is a lot of research of looking at his pictures when he was young, when he was in his 20s, the clothes that he's wearing, the things that he's doing, all that helps me to understand who this person really was, even though I didn't know them. But it's good because when you do that, you're not too far from the experience of the author who wrote the book or the experience of the person who's within the story. So it's really good for you to do all those things and then you just let it flow. And at the end of the day, I think for me the most important thing and what makes me happy is people faces when they read the stories that I create or that I illustrate and yeah. So I think that's my advice for little ones and whoever that's doing this challenge.
I'm so glad you mentioned the research aspect of this. Getting to know who this recipient is, right, is so very
Yes.
important. So, obviously, reading some of the stories. So these students are going to be working in teams. Someone's got to be writing the story of their recipient, and then someone's going to have to be
Hmm.
illustrating it. So it's really
Hmm.
cool that they're like side by side, being able to work on this together because you're getting the
Hmm.
author and the illustrator. And that doesn't always happen
Yes.
for you, right? It's not like you're working side by side with the author. I mean, I'm sure you can
Hmm.
connect, but in this case,
Right.
they're right beside each other.
Hmm.
So it's kind of a little bit of a crutch. So that's a positive for them.
Yeah.
So don't freak out, students. You can do this. But I'm
Yes.
so glad you mentioned the research aspect of it and why it's so important. Um, to be able to capture the fine details, the details of the
Hmm.
era. It's
Hmm.
historically authentic, and that certainly sets it to another level, right? And being able to kind of really figure out the personality of this person because that's in their facial
Hmm.
expressions. It's in the choice
Hmm.
clothes that they wear, their posture. When we talk about Ronald McNair, and I'm going to keep using him because you literally are illustrating this Space Medal of Honor recipient,
Yes.
and that's our challenge is about Space Medal of Honor and Medal of Honor
Hmm.
recipients. It's getting to know who that person was. And after reading about Ronald McNair myself and looking through his photos and learning more about his family, he was a really humble kid. He was a very studious kid,
Hmm.
but a really
Yeah.
humble kid. And so, like, how do you illustrate that? Even though he's facing all of these challenges along the way, when people could just throw their
Hmm.
hands up and say, I'm done, or, blow
Hmm.
up and whatever else, as far as, with anger and all of those different things, because he met some pretty tough challenges. I mean, he wasn't allowed to check out books in a
Hmm.
library for white people, but he said, no, I want these
Hmm.
books, and literally
Hmm.
was there and waited until he could check them out. And he took a stance on it. And he would have done that, I think, in a humble way, but in a way that
Hmm.
was his unique way. And you learn his unique way by researching him, right? And learning more about his story and different
Hmm.
things. So I think it's just very important. So thanks for touching on that with students, for students, so they can really get to know who these recipients are. Let's
Hmm.
see what else. Luke, chime in if you've got some questions. Luke always has some of the absolute best questions for these
Yeah.
experiences. He's such a good storyteller. Um,
Thank you.
so we did techniques and what else?
Well, what about you know, maybe you can speak to it specifically with Ronald McNair, but really in any of the illustrations that you do, talk to us a little bit about the way that you connect with your subject as an illustrator. So obviously, it's different when you're doing a real life person like Ronald McNair versus somebody that you're making up or that a writer made up. But when you're doing a story for someone like Ronald McNair, how do you, as the illustrator, connect with them in order to portray them in the most accurate way?
Yeah. So I draw a lot. Um, so when I'm developing the characters, of course, this is a real person. But then I have to redraw that person, and I spend a lot of time rather, drawing. So the curves, the eyes, the hair, everything. You're really getting to really know this person you're drawing because you spend so much time drawing it. And before you even touch the story, you have to do sketches that develop this person that you're drawing. So for me, that's how I really, you know, get the intimacy in terms of developing the character and really getting used to what I'm doing. Um, Now, if it's, for example, a story of a make-believe character, it's the same thing. You have to, draw and redraw a lot and get to know them. And, there's a story that me and my daughter is creating called Birdie Birdie. It's about this bird in the forest that has all these friends, but sometimes they don't want to play with him. So we spend a lot of time like retelling each other the stories and different ways that we tell each other and drawing it, And she's like, "No, he should be pink." I'm like, "Babe, like maybe we should do a blue bird instead." But we try to get the character out of the paper and we spend a lot of time with the character. So I think spending a lot of time with your story is
Yeah.
how you're able to really make an authentic story or character for the process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. You've got another one. I already see it
Yeah.
going. Go ahead. Luke's got another one. He's ready to roll.
Okay, so
Sure.
going back to talking about how these kids are going to be working in groups, there's some people that are going to be more talented as actual illustrators versus others are going to have different skill sets. With you as an illustrator, what are some of the things that you rely on in your team? So, like as you're
Mhm.
developing the actual drawings, there's things that are kind of inspiring the way that you draw, whether it be historical material research that you're doing, or whether it be direction from the writer that you're illustrating for, or from
Or from the
different team.
publisher,
Or yeah, from
right?
the
Because you're
publisher.
Yeah.
getting notes from which
Yeah.
I will say, Cindy has spoken very highly of you from the get go. But I love how they give notes and they do things like I can't. We've had other publishers that this does not happen.
Yeah.
So
There is a lot. Yeah.
oh, go ahead. Yeah, but
Um,
that's that
yeah,
teamwork,
that's
right?
a
That's that working with another
yes.
group.
This It's a team sport. It's always a team sport. And I rely a lot on the writer because they have to really, it's like a partnership. They have to give me this vision and you have to flush it out and really, you know, really meet in the middle to what they're trying to portray and really complement what they're trying to write. So there's a lot of going back and forth. Sometimes they're like, no, I don't think his face should be like that. I want more joy. I want
Mhm.
more peace. And then you have to go back to the drawing board, not being angry, not being, oh yeah. No, you have to, you know, go back to the board and, redraw. And, sometimes if you really believe in what you're drawing, you can, push back a little bit and say, I think it should be like this
Mhm.
because it's a partnership, but a lot of times you'll get notes and instructions and feedback from other people who are part of this team,
Mhm.
whether it's the creative director, whether it's the editor, whether it's the writer. The goal, you always have to remember the goal, not taking anything personal.
Mhm.
That the goal is to make this material that people love. So everything that you guys do is supposed to be as a team. And if the drawing isn't great, just redo it a little bit more. And if you really strongly believe that he should have a, like my daughter, it should be pink, then yeah, push the idea of it being pink. But yeah, I think learning how to collaborate doesn't just help this book; it helps most things in life.
Yeah.
So I think that's the goal. Yeah.
So tell me this. You said you want to end with a product that people love, right? How much is
Hmm.
it of that you love slash you want other people to love? And I'm not saying maybe it's kind of like a twofold question of is this not necessarily more for marketing and what could generate not views,
Hmm.
but generate capture the audience of the times, or is it more of creating something that's timeless and how many more people would enjoy that as opposed to oh, it's just this is the in thing right now in illustration
Hmm.
slash how much of it too is you wanting your work this to be your vision slash you
Yeah.
want everybody to love it. So how much is I don't know
Hmm.
that I don't know if I really
Yeah.
asked the right
It's a good
question there,
question.
but
No, it's a good question because I think for me, it's twofold because for me, I'm an artist as well. So I paint a lot. I don't get feedback from painting. I just do my own thing. And if I like it, that's good. If I don't like it, that's it. I just steer and move along. But then as an illustrator, now you have feedback from
mm-hmm.
people. And I think it's sometimes hard to get the feedback and really work it into the work because you have a certain vision. But again, because you're not writing the story, you have to then take that input from, someone else who have had that vision,
Hmm.
and you are helping them to flesh the story out. So it's always difficult, but then you always learn. I think over time I've learned to do that, because I've done this for a long time. So in the beginning, it's really hard. You're like,
Uh-huh.
oh no, I believe it should be like this. But then eventually you see the results of like the times you were really not trying to collaborate. And then when you collaborate, you see the work, you're like, oh, okay, collaborating is better because
Yeah.
it's more cooks in the kitchen is all not is it, people say a lot of cooks in the kitchen, it's like usually a bad term, but this one is a good term
This
because
was
you
a good
have
one.
all the flavors, right?
Oh, yeah.
And all the personality and all the backgrounds and all the cultural thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a good thing to collaborate in storytelling. For me, I'm not a good writer in terms of creating things, but I can create stories in my head. So I would always need a good writer to tell that story.
Uh-huh.
And then I'm coming back to illustrate at the same time,
Yeah.
So it's really good to collaborate. And, most careers you're collaborating. As a designer, I work with engineers who have to build what I design. So it's every part of my life is collaborating. Yeah.
Wow. And as you're saying all this, I have like a million different questions that come to mind too. What do you say to the perfectionist kids that have down exactly in their mind what they want? This is what they're doing. They're doing it
Yeah.
to what they think it's now perfect, and then they've got input coming in. And those perfectionist kids that say, but it's got my name on it, and I want it to be this
Yes.
good, and they see it that it's got my name on it. I don't want something going out into the wide world that's got my name on it, and I don't feel like it's living up
Mhm.
to what do you
Yeah.
say to those kids? Because there's probably going to be some of those kids in these teams, in these groups.
Yeah. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. It's good to be perfect in everything you do. But there's always a balance, right? There's imperfection in perfection sometimes. There's perfection. You can do it both ways, right? Some of the best work I've done is because I made a mistake on my paintings, and someone's like, "Oh my God, it's so beautiful," and they can't see the mistake. Only me can see the mistake from here. So it's amazing for art. It's really amazing how sometimes I had this art teacher way back, and he's like, every mistake is a new style. So every time he used to say that to some of us that wanted something perfect. He's like, oh, it's a new style. I'm like, no, it's actually broken. And he's like, no, it's just a style. So I think embrace the mistakes sometimes, and just live life as you wanted to be in this whatever thing you're creating. It's not the end of the world if you made a mistake in it, if you don't want it to. Things being perfect sometimes is good. Like if we're building a bridge, we want the engineering not to mess up the math, right?
Yeah.
But when we're doing art, it's art. It can, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Someone will see it and say, "Oh my God, it's amazing," and you know all the flaws in it. But yeah, if you always want to be a perfectionist in art or illustration or whatever things that comes to creating, you could spend forever creating that thing because
Yeah.
it would never be enough, right? I've seen paintings that I did and I'm like, oh, I need to add this red mark on it because it's not really red enough. And my wife is like, oh, it looks amazing. And I've learned to say, oh, paintings aren't ever finished. So my artworks are never finished. They're just work in progress.
Yeah.
So, but they're still, completely on the wall and someone's enjoying it. But for me, I'm like, okay, it's always something to add.
Yeah.
But that shouldn't stop your progress at all.
I think what you just said is so great for students to hear, not only because of this, right, of the challenge, but I think that's life, right? That
Hmm.
we're always evolving. As Michelle Obama says,
Yes.
we're always becoming. We're becoming. We
Hmm.
haven't arrived yet. So all these skills that these students are developing, maybe through some of it through this design challenge, through their
Yeah.
current grade level they're in, as they progress through their
Hmm.
schooling years, perhaps post-secondary, whatever that may look like, or straight into the workforce, whatever that looks like. All these skills they're accruing, you're still evolving, right? And you're picking those
Yeah.
up and figuring out, okay, where can I use these skills in the next position I'm in, and what this looks like, and what this looks like. I think
Hmm.
what you just said about art literally translates into life, right? Like
Yes. Yes.
you can be a beautiful human being, but you're still becoming. Like you're still doing these
Yeah.
things. And
Yeah.
you could have made really bad mistakes, whether it's at
Hmm.
school, you haven't tried hard enough, you've made poor grades to this
Hmm.
point.
Hmm.
What can you do to turn it around? All right. So that was part of the
Yeah.
story. This is part of the painting. Now
Yep.
let's add a little more color to it. I'm going to spend a little more time studying. I'm going to apply
Yeah.
myself a little bit more. I'm going to accrue some new skills. Maybe it's watching
Hmm.
a YouTube video at night on how to develop some skill, whether it's the videography or whatever else. What are the skills that we could be accruing to then apply to our lives, to give us a little
Hmm.
more, to enhance our skill sets that we can leverage and maybe make more money or whatever it is to better ourselves, right? That was so
Yeah.
beautiful. What a great connection to that. Oh,
It was
so
good.
good. Luke, I know you got more questions over there. He's like, yeah, I got it. I got it. He's got another one.
Okay, Chase. So, some of these kids are going to be coming in and they really want to become whatever it is they're doing. So we're probably going to have a kid in there that wants to be an illustrator and is like so far away from that goal, other than, obviously, they're drawing, but like so far away from that being a
Hmm.
career or whatever. For you, looking back at your, childhood, looking back at who you were and having these skills and knowing that you wanted to grow them, what would you say to your younger self, if you could go back, and what would you say to kids, who want to pursue this path?
Yeah. I'll tell them they have time, time to make mistakes, time to explore a lot of stuff. I go back to when I was learning, I would use coffee to paint. I would use watercolor. I would use pastel. I would use anything I could get my hands on. Because for me, there wasn't rules in what I could create. There was just me as I could be that rule in what I create myself. And so I explore everything. And I mean, as a person right now, there's so many things that I do besides just illustrating and designing, right? Like I love to create fashion stuff. I love to create so many different things. I'm teaching myself animation. And that's because I'm always learning, right? I've never stopped learning ever. And it's because I have so many interests and I'm still exploring. So it never stops. I think nurturing that curiosity when you're little or when you're growing up is so important because it never leaves you. That's the thing that helps you get through so many things in life because you're always learning and you're feeling too, right? So it's never always just a good, great thing. Sometimes you do some type of illustration, it looks terrible. I can remember one time my first watercolor set, I was so excited. I told myself I would not sleep until I do something. And so I painted that night with candles. There was a
Wow.
candlelight and I was painting and I thought I had colored the face of the person brown and in the morning it was purple. But it's because I just wanted to do it. I was so excited. So I'll tell them, keep doing. You have time, keep illustrating, keep drawing, keep exploring, and everything is going to come together when it's time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And these kids who do illustrate, right? You got to practice. You got to actually illustrate to become that, right? You got to go through all these iterations.
Hmm.
But is there anything
Hmm.
else that they can take inspiration from? It's sometimes I feel like people they've got a goal, right? And they just get so focused on
Hmm.
that particular goal, as opposed to if I broaden a little bit, it might spark some new idea that I never even thought about. And then that makes my work so much more unique compared to other people's, right? Is there anything that
Hmm.
you would I don't know, say advocate for, but would encourage students to maybe look at, aside from just artwork? Is there anything other types of artwork, or is there any other experiences that you would kind of recommend or encourage students um, to to partake in?
Yeah, I mean there are a lot of things that you learn experience from kids. We have so much more now. We have animated films that we can watch, that we can see. We can get books that we can look at all the artists' work. We can watch documentaries. We have YouTube. We have the library. We have the outside, right? Just take your sketchbook and look at people and see how they do things, how they move, how they talk. We have cell phones. You can take pictures. If something is giving you a really hard time to draw, you can take a picture and you can draw it because references is great. So there's so many things that we can do. Even music. You can listen to music, remember how you felt, and there's a way to put that into your art. So there's so many tools out there that we can use, and I think our experience is what feeds our art. So go and experience, you know, everything that you want to, of course, in a positive way, so that your art can really reflect that.
Yeah. Uh, okay, another question on the inspiration thing. Obviously we've got a lot of AI tools now, and it's pretty fairly easy to see when people are drawing things or
Hmm.
literally running it through AI. What would you say to, I mean, because part of this design challenge is that students draw this themselves, right? They are
Hmm.
literally
Hmm. Hmm.
illustrating this stuff.
Yeah.
And so part of it is to not use AI tools. But maybe there's a
Hmm.
way to get some type of inspiration from it as opposed to just immediately employing it into the work and calling it
Hmm.
their work. What would you
Hmm.
speak to that? I mean, there are a lot of cool AI tools, but at the end of the
Hmm.
day, part of this challenge is, we're talking about character values associated with Medal of Honor recipients, the integrity of like, this is my work, and you want to feel good about
Hmm.
the work that you're putting out, right? It's stuff that you
Yeah.
create. But and there are ways that you can take inspiration from it. What would you say to students who maybe want to, I don't say tamper with
Yeah.
it, but at least get some inspiration from it?
Yeah, I think AI is a tricky one, because it's everywhere now. But I think it's asking yourself, what do I really want to gain from this?
Hmm.
Do I really want to be proud of this? When it's done, I think then you begin to think, okay, yeah, it has to be my own work, right? It can't be something that I generated online from a tool. Um, Now there's a way to research using AI, right?
Hmm.
You could, if it's, let's say maybe it's a sci-fi, it's a fantasy story that you're telling. Maybe you can ask like, hey, how would, this scene look like in, you know, 1920, through a text prompt. And maybe there's are references that you can gain through the history and things like that, asking AI. But I would say as much as you can possible, use less of it, because art should be something that comes from you, that has some type of attachment to a work that you produce. So for me, I'm always advocating to use less of it. It's really good for research. I use it for research myself, in all the things that I'm doing, but never as a way to create, um, what I should be creating. It shouldn't replace you. It should assist you.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh, awesome. Because it's almost like it's your voice coming through that. Like,
Hmm.
it's an author's
Hmm.
voice coming through the stories they're writing, but it's your voice coming through the illustrations that you're creating. Like, it's uniquely
Yes.
yours,
Yes.
and that's something to be proud
Hmm.
of. And if you're not like
Yes.
proud of it just yet, well, that's more an incentive to keep working on it, right? And to keep
Hmm.
honing your craft. Luke,
Hmm.
Luke's over there. I know you got one other question.
I actually don't think I do.
Oh,
I
you
think,
don't?
yeah, no,
Listen, Chase, you've
that's
been
that's been
awesome.
really
Like
good.
you've
Yeah.
said some
Thank you.
awesome stuff for kids. I think this is going to really inspire some kids. Just want them to have fun with this, but I want them to like
Hmm.
know that man, you could make a career out of this. You could do something really cool with
Yes,
this. Um,
totally.
illustrate books and or graphic novels or whatever else it is. Um,
Yep.
oh, well, this is awesome. What? Anything else, Luke?
No, I really think we got fantastic material.
I'm so glad. So this design challenge is going to launch September 15th. So I still got a lot of
Okay.
work left. We are down to like a month as of today.
Ooh.
I've
Okay.
built out a lot of it. Currently, we have a new crew doing our website, so I've asked them to. Oh, they've built out some, but now I have to add all the content to it. So it's the
Hmm.
writing, it's the designing, it's Luke doing our videos over here. We'll be ready to go for those and putting those in. So I'm excited about it. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. I hope it's a lot of fun. I hope kids have fun with
That's
this, and
awesome.
it's not
Can't
like
wait to see it.
some
Hmm.
laborious task that their teachers are making them do. But all right, well, Chase, thanks so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. Thanks for this. I know we took up some of your afternoon here. We really appreciate it. And I'm so glad we get to connect students to career paths, not only career paths, but to people who come from so many different backgrounds with us. I mean, like I said,
Yes.
Miss
Hmm.
Rita's from here in Chattanooga, but she comes from a different background. And then there's you, there's our
Hmm.
ventriloquist, and just all these other people like that this wasn't their first career choice. Like it wasn't what they might have
Yeah.
gone to school
Hmm.
for, and here they are. So,
Right.
oh, so good. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, Chase.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
I appreciate it as well. It was a pleasure. I can't wait to see what the kids and all the other people come up with.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, have a great afternoon, great weekend.
You too. Bye
See ya.
bye.
Thanks so much, Chase.